So I've been working with my organization Spazio Giovani since last century in the youth work field, and we started to establish projects and programs about media literacy, digital awareness. There wasn't a proper word to define them in the beginning of the 2000s. Well, in my experience, youngsters are not a problem at all. The problem is normally the youth workers themselves, because they are really not confident enough and they fear a lot to be kind of cut out by this new generation of tools and activities upcoming. But then, quite rather surprisingly, instead of improving their skills and do exactly what they preach to youngsters every day, in many cases they close up and they do not accept to at least experience and try to get maybe somehow involved in using digital media, in using tools, in approaching digital issues and so on. So to me the biggest problem is that we have a lack of, I don't know if interest, but confidence in the youth workers field towards digital media and platforms and such. I see a very worrying trend exactly on fake news and fake news fabrication and spreading, which is growing and growing, and I also suspect it's not happening by itself, because there are a lot of possible, I would not say proof, but some signals that maybe something is behind, botnets everywhere, fake accounts controlled by few IP addresses sending out messages all at the same moment towards the same targets and such. So fake news, I would say, is the problem, in my opinion, maybe made even more problem by the fact that the social media platforms themselves, they are not very much cooperating in terms of tackling this issue. I would say the opposite. We had elections and we have been through an ongoing campaign, even though the government was already there. And it's been months, 1 year maybe, since this last government was elected, in which there was a continual spreading of news, but I would say more a continual spreading of fear, backed by facts and news, which then, with a little bit of debunking, proved to be false, fake. And so, it's so easy that you scratch them with your finger and you understand they're fake, but then most of the people just don't even bother doing this little scratching. So I think this is the most worrying and relevant aspect of the whole thing. So first of all, I would say that always they are mixed up. Facts and fake elements are always mixed up together to make it more easily believable, because some of the parts are actually true, but some of them are not. Why? That's a big question. That's the question, I would say. I don't know, I think you can build up your political agenda on many different possible topics. So you want to go for personal development, you want to go for economical development, or you can go through, I don't know, spreading fear to having a way to increase your control of things. And then when people are afraid, it's easier to make them agree on something that normally they wouldn't agree on. I guess that's the biggest trouble. It has been like this for decades. I mean, in times of television, so last century, still people were not able to decode the television code of transmission of meaning. And now it's even worse. So we say that we live in the civilization of images and people cannot read images. We say that we are in the network time and people do not know how the network is shaped and how social media work and how you build up consensus, even exploiting who is actually posting stuff against you. People should know, and we should worry about letting them know how these platforms, how these media work, and how they are all connected together, and how also we can be part of this connection, maybe to counter-narrate something, maybe, yeah, let other voices be heard, because I guess there are a lot of voices telling interesting stories of very, very interesting stuff happening nowadays. And again, I want to be positive. There are a lot of very interesting projects in terms of participation, in terms of communities, empowerment and whatever. And it's just there to be told, but then I don't know why media go on considering, you know, the most fearful and devious topics instead of showing that, yeah, the world has improved. You know? That's a fact. No, I would say they could, as a first step, recognize that youngsters, at least in some aspects, are now more, you know, skilled than the average youth worker. So open up to the possibility of getting contributions from youngsters, but keeping the role, as I said in my speech here, keeping the role of the ones asking the right questions in the right moments. So youngsters have expertise on this topic, maybe sometimes more than youth workers, but youth workers have maybe the biggest picture and the possibility to frame this picture in some meaningful content. So these alliances should maybe work together to create something interesting and new. Yeah. Lately, of course, it's been environmental issues, climate change, so super big topics, super relevant topics, and topics that when you just touch them, you mean you're touching the whole system, economy, global relationship, international politics. So the big relevant stuff is there, and they're trying to gain access, let their voices heard at that level. So I'm really thinking that we should support this. If we want to achieve participation, they're trying to participate very strongly. Let's really make way for them to take their stand and let their voices be heard.